Hello, everyone. This is Jessica Pettit, and who do I have the pleasure of interviewing today?
Hello, my name is David Harrell, and I am excited to be interviewed and look forward to having a great conversation.
Yay!
Woo-hoo!
So, woo-hoo! In these conversations, we have talked a lot of my friends or people that I've actually done work directly with, and we are just meeting, so I'm very excited. Welcome to my friend circle audition. Let's see how it turns out.
I know. Nice.
Yeah. So I like to start off with two kind of open-ended, idea-based or concept-based questions that are kind of running around in my brain.
Okay.
So one of them, the first one, and there's no right answer, you can say anything you want,
Okay.
is the concept of a diversity dividend. So how this has come up in my universe, when people are talking about diversity and like the bottom line and return on investment and that kind of stuff. So how does the concept diversity dividend land on you and your work and your experience when thinking about investment, action, and return?
Wow. That's a good question. I don't think I've thought of that at all. That doesn't necessarily come into my universe, as you say, in a way. But I think it's, in terms of my work, my ideas of diversity, inclusion, equity, it's getting more voices in the room to ultimately move forward within a conversation, right? So I think a lot of some of the things that because I am just meeting you for the first time, so some of the things I've heard you say in terms of the idea of getting past the us and them really stood out to me, that by having those additional voices in a room and able to authentically be themselves and to articulate their thoughts and their ideas, that I think allows in terms of a dividend or a return on investment or whatever, that is going to bring us to a more, I think, thoughtful solution and thoughtful process to move forward, because it is putting more voices in a room and ultimately not hope. What we're not doing is we're not keeping that wall of us, them, and if you're talking to the same voices, no matter where you are, if those continue all the time, then we're not maybe getting the chance to move forward, however that movement might be. Does that make sense?
Sounds great. I agree, and I don't know, it's a new idea I have.
Yeah.
So the other concept-based question, again, no right answer, is around other duties assigned. So typically this shows up in two ways. One is at the end of a job description, but the other one is kind of the emotional labor or additional stuff that we often do, maybe in a workplace, maybe in our family, that's not necessarily rewarded. Maybe it starts off for us and becomes exhausting, whatever. Maybe you become the kind of default chair of an affinity group because you have a particular identity. When I say asterisk other duties assigned, what does that mean to you?
I think, let's see, it means that you need to, I guess it depends on where you're coming from. If it is a part of a description that is being assigned to you, I think it's beginning to have that conversation. What ultimately does that mean? And being able to honestly assess where you are in terms of your time and abilities to really commit and try to as much as you can get as much specific information you can to that description. I think a lot of us that do this work, and certainly from my background as an actor, and I think we have the mentality, we're going to do anything we need to do, anything to make it work, anything to make it happen. And I think a lot of times we will unwittingly make ourselves too available and sometimes not set a sense of specific expectation and boundary in terms of what it is that we're doing. And also from the other end, from a management perspective, trying to be as clear as you can with what those additional expectations may be. They may not, you may not have the ability to define them, but hopefully you can also negotiate within your staff and your employees to realize what an employee might be able to do to that may be going above and beyond the actual description, but really being able to highlight what can this employee effectively help us do, and not expect too much from them, and not burn them out, because then the organization and your ideas and your work is not going to be able to move forward as much as you would like.
Yeah, great, very cool. It's been interesting to hear different people's responses based on the work they do, based on their own kind of collection of social identities.
Sure.
So thank you for that. Now, you touched a little bit on your theatrical background. Yeah. Do you mind talking a little bit about your background, and then how you bring that training and that skills, that experience into your diversity, equity, and inclusion work?
Yes, I am a trained actor, and I been an actor for a while. I grew up in the Deep South and then sort of moved around regionally for a long time, and now I live in New York City, and I've been in New York City for over 10 years. And so I kind of fell into an awareness of, first, disability awareness, I think, was my first kind of learning opportunity, because I was born without my right hand. So I'm a congenital amputee, one way I define it. And I never thought about that word, or I had a very negative connotation of that word disability. I would say I'm not disabled. I don't have a disability. I'm just missing the fingers on my right hand, and I can do anything you can. Mm-hmm. And I got a job working for a theater company that had some funding in terms of making their space more accessible and inclusive. And they were going to hire an actor with a disability, and they were like, "David, do you want to come do a play?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't necessarily think I have a disability." And they were like, "Well, we're going to pay you like this amount of money to come do the play." And I was like, "Okay, I can do that." And I sort of stepped into it. And then through stepping into it and beginning to meet other activists and advocates, it sort of brought my awareness outside of a medical model, or looking at it from a diagnosis standpoint to a more social and community standpoint. So that sort of started my idea of disability awareness, and that led into more of this idea of advocacy, and how can we, number one, in my industry, in the entertainment industry, how can we have more authentic portrayals of disability and opportunities for performers with disabilities to play those roles, and also to play roles that may not necessarily be defined. And then ultimately that is through that advocacy work that led me into these broader ideas of a broad sense of diversity, and making sure, number one, disability is included in those broad conversations, but that also that we're allowing space for a lot of different voices and different ideas. And so through my work, it kind of comes, so all that kind of comes into these theatrical stories that I tell. I wrote 2 solo plays, and I produced my solo play, A Little Potato Hard to Peel, off Broadway in 2009, and it's kind of continued to have this voice. And then I created a play for younger audiences called The Boy Who Would Be Captain Hook, and I performed those around in schools and other theater locations. And then the idea sort of came that perhaps I could take the nuggets of that story and move it into a keynote, and I started working on that a while ago. So I think what I hope is the realness of the characters that I can create through this story that I tell. And I think all speakers, we're telling a story. But I think being able to have a real I think, sense of a three-dimensional character that's created in time and space, not just, without costume or anything, but just the ability to create that allows an audience to sort of begin to connect a little bit more with what I'm doing. I hope there's sort of an emotional level that I can reach through that work that might be a little slightly deeper than just presenting with something. That there's not only the intellectual sort of information that's sort of being processed, but then there's something that hopefully can come through your gut and through humor because you see a character having to live through a moment in real time and space.
It's fascinating to me to address the issues directly from a theater place that then you add in story and humor and stage performance to an audience. Whereas I think a lot of folks, and certainly the people I have interviewed, have come from like an education space or a training space that then have to learn storytelling and add theater as part of their humor, right? So I thought that was a really cool link that you were able to make, but also it really increases your skills and your reach because you're able to combine the humor, the theater, and the storytelling with the point of diversity advocacy or disability advocacy in the arts and outside of the arts.
Right. Exactly. I hope so. And I think I'm still in that process of learning how, I'm sort of coming from this other direction, but also like, how do I kind of bring back in those teaching moments more effectively? I think that's a constant evolution for me to continue to begin to focus on and articulate. That's
rad. Very cool. Are you by chance ready for my 2 favorite questions in the whole world?
I'll do my best.
Okay, here we go. Right. Number 1 is, what have you changed your mind about lately?
What have I changed my mind about lately? What have I changed my mind about lately? Driving in New York City. I, for 8.5 or almost 9 years, did not have a car and was like adamant, I'm never going to have a car. I don't want a car. I, navigate in the, as a New Yorker, a borough living New Yorker, but still a New Yorker nonetheless. And then an opportunity came last year to get a car, and it just kind of made sense. And my wife and I have a young little boy who just turned 3 this year. So I changed my mind. I said, you know what, having a car in this crazy city is not the worst thing in the world, and I can make it work, and it is beneficial, and it has certainly helped in certain situations.
Nice. What borough do you live in?
Queens.
Nice. I lived in Brooklyn when I lived in New York.
Nice.
The pain and suffering of our Manhattan friends of having to take the subway. I feel you. Okay, great. What do you absolutely know?
I absolutely know. I think it's the core of my work. That no matter the circumstances we face, no matter the challenges that we face, those never can peel away the humanity that exists inside. That our humanity cannot simply be defined by those external things. That we have capacity as human beings to move past those circumstances and challenges. I know that to be true, and I realize that I can speak to my own experience, and certainly not equate that to other experience. But I believe in humanity. I believe in the core of that in all of us, and I think that we can transcend whatever those things that come about. So, yeah, I think I know that's true.
That's fantastic, and I agree. So then I've been ending these kind of interviews with, I have a product called Icebreaker Cards that is a collection of easy, intermediate, or deep questions. Okay. And I asked you to pick 3 random numbers in advance So this is lightning round, but it is also random lightning round. And your first question is considered an easy question. And it's number 14. What was your first pet or first pet you knew? What name, type, breed, and what were the personality traits?
Ooh, I don't know the name and breed. The first pet I knew was Blossom, was her name. It was a dog that actually was rescued by my dad's sister, I think. And my dad and my mom took in the dog, I think, right before I was born. And she had this beautiful red fur and kind of like, wasn't a lab. I mean, it wasn't not a Labrador, sort of probably a mix of things, but she was just so gentle and sweet, and sort of probably, as a very young kid, I had that experience growing up with her, and she was around the first 10 years of my life. So I remember her passing away too, very, very vividly. That was also a memory of really losing something too. But yeah, Blossom was beautiful.
Wonderful. Number 23 is intermediate, and it is, what are some of your hidden talents or abilities?
I think sometimes organizing a little bit. I tend to say, oh, no, I'm not the one to do it. I want someone else to take this on, and facilitate, and I can kind of be there to support, and I feel a little more comfortable in that sort of support role. But I do think I do have certain talents that I don't access as much as I should in terms of organizing and really sort of being the one to facilitate and support others in terms of moving forward in some sort of objective or work environment.
Do you mean community organizing, or do you mean like you got a great sock drawer?
I would not be sock drawer, because my sock drawer is just, I just toss the socks in. They're
not organized. Okay.
Not that type of organizing. I would say more about, like, in some ways, yeah, like either community organizing or working to sort of put together a discussion panel on specific issues, or working with an existing organization to sort of kind of piece together a program or something like that.
Event planning kind of.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Last one, number 3, also easy. What person, living or dead, would you most like to go to lunch with? What would you talk about?
Oh, wow. Again, I would say kind of almost core to my work. My grandfather, who I sort of based the play on, A Little Potato Hard to Peel. I would love to have a conversation with him as an adult, because the story that I've pulled from, which is sort of this, the sort of idea of what I do, was a story that was told as I was a kid, and it's certainly something I remember. But I never had a chance to talk to him about what that means as an adult. And I sort of have my own philosophy about it, but I would love to really kind of talk to him here and now.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing and spending some time with us. If people wanted to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
Well, easiest way is on the interwebs at my website, which is davidharrellspeaks.com. And you can also find me on social media, David Harrell Speaks on Facebook, also Twitter, and of course, LinkedIn. You can find more information that way as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. It's been great to get to know you.
It was so great to know you. Thank you.
Yeah. And we should thank a shout out to Kate Holgate for doing the introduction.
Absolutely. Yes.
Excellent.
Alliance for Success Management, Kate Holgate. She's great, and she's been really supportive of me. So
that's so rad.
Shout out.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.